Hey guys, this is going to be my October wrap-up and November TBR, where I go really quickly through the books I read in October and tell you what I thought of them really quickly, and then go through the books that I plan to read in November. I managed to read 4 books in October, which is actually surprising to me because I didn't expect to get that many read, so go me. First book I read in October was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which I am currently teaching for student teaching, which is why I read it, because I wanted to reread it before I taught it. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I already had given it 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I don't have the book to show you because it's in with my school stuff and I don't want to move it and then forget to put it back. But reading that, well, I mean, I read it, I'm reading it, I'm probably gonna read it a million times. If my voice sounds weird, by the way, it's because I've been reading large chunks of To Kill a Mockingbird out to 6 different classes every day. It's we don't have 6 classes every day. Our schedule's weird so that we have 7 periods, Monday and Friday, and 5 periods Tuesday through Thursday. I'm off on the numbers because we have like prep and stuff in there too, so not that many classes every day. But yeah, next book I read in October was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the illustrated edition by J.K. Rowling. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't have it to show you either because I left it at home when I went home for fall break, but it is such a gorgeous book. I highly recommend getting the illustrated edition. I know Chamber of Secrets just came out in the illustrated edition and I so desperately want it. The first one was amazing. Like, I would love, if there was one version of Harry Potter I could share with someone for the first time, I would want it to be that one. Like, if you have kids and you want to read Harry Potter to them for the first time, or if not necessarily if they're your kids, but if you know kids and you want them to experience Harry Potter for the first time, I would say go with the illustrated edition. It's more money, obviously, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. On my Kindle, I read Frey by Melissa Wright, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. I'm actually kind of sad that I only gave this 2 stars because it is a book about elves, and I realized while reading this that I never read books about elves. Like, I read books that have elves in them sometimes, although not even that is as often as I would like necessarily, but I'll read books with elves in them, but the main character is never an elf. I think looking back on it, there's one other book I can remember that I read that had a main character who was an elf, but like every other character in that book wasn't an elf, whereas this book is about a character who is an elf and is surrounded by elves. Humans are like mythical in this universe. They don't actually believe in them, or like some people do, some people don't. They don't know if they're real or not, which is fascinating to me, and I so wish it had lived up to that. But I felt, I don't know, I talked about in my review how the way the book is constructed, the main character passes out a lot, like faints, just completely faints and goes unconscious a lot in the book, like strangely a lot. And there are reasons for that given in the book, but the problem with it is she fades, so she's unconscious and then she's misses things because she's unconscious, and she's like disoriented when she wakes up, and she has to try and figure out what's going on and things like that. And it just, the way the book's constructed makes everything so confusing because the narrator herself is constantly disoriented because she's like waking up after having passed out, and so you start to feel that way as a reader, like disoriented, confused, and I didn't like that, and that kind of ruined the entire book for me. Like, I just didn't like that sense of constantly trying to sort out what was going on because you missed stuff because you weren't conscious. Like, you have that same feeling, like the book does a good job of giving you that same feeling as a reader, but I didn't like that. I just realized the high school I teach at, this is from the high school library at the school I'm student teaching at, and the name of the school is on the book, so I should cover that up. I don't think it says it anywhere else, but it's what every teacher should know about classroom management and discipline. My cooperating teacher, like the teacher who's in charge of me for student teaching, whose classroom I'm in, gave me this book and another book that I'm going to talk about in a second, because I'm focusing a lot on classroom management in like the end of student teaching, because obviously that is the hardest thing to learn as an education student, because you can't really learn until you're doing it and you have a classroom to manage, and you have like 30 or so, like 25, 30 teenagers that you have to deal with. So a lot of this was like, it's very short. I don't know if it's very short, and a lot of it was stuff that I learned in my education classes, but I did give it 5 out of 5 stars because it is a good overview of stuff I learned in my education classes. I don't know if I necessarily gained anything new from it. I do kind of feel like I'm at the point with classroom management that I'm going to gain a lot more from actually doing it, and am gaining a lot more from actually doing it than books. But I do think that that's a good resource on classroom management. Like, books still definitely have value, but yeah. Moving on to my TBR. I am currently reading 3 books. One of them is the Norton Literary Criticism anthology that I've been reading forever, because I read little bits of it at a time, and I'm still doing that. I didn't bring it over here because it's like a huge giant brick and I didn't want to carry it when I didn't have to, but yeah, still reading that. On my Kindle, I'm also currently reading 30 Days, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life by Mark Reclau, I think it's Reclau. R-E-K-L-A-U, however you say that. I talked about this in my TBR, how I downloaded this because it was free, and looking back on it, I'm not really sure why. It has a lot of chapters, like 90 something chapters, I think, and they're all super short. Like on my Kindle, they're like 2 pages long, or like a page and a half. And I've been reading this for like half the month or something. I'm not really liking it, but I'm keeping going with it because the chapters are so short, and it gives me something to open every so often and read a little bit, and I feel like I'm accomplishing something, since I don't really have time to read much with student teaching. So yeah, so I'm still reading it, but not really liking it. I'll probably give it a negative review when I'm done. I think I'm like somewhere around 75% done now, so we're getting there. Third book I'm currently reading is the other book that my mentor teacher gave me about classroom management, which is Why Didn't I Learn This in College? Teaching and Learning in the 21st Century by Paula Rutherford. The thing with this book, if you look inside of it, this very much reminds me of elementary school. The book is supposed to be for elementary and secondary education, and it is. It definitely is. It's just the general setup of the book looks very elementary to me, which I find funny. Again, I think this is all stuff I've learned in my education classes. I'm not all the way through this one yet, so there could be more later. But like a lot of it is specific ideas, like numbered heads, and I think everyone knows what a scavenger hunt is, but like numbered heads, I've learned what numbered heads are in education classes. Bingo's another one, I think everyone knows what that is. So, I don't know, then there's stuff like dealing with paperwork. It's another one of those things I don't think you can fully grasp until you're doing it, but anyway, yeah, I do think it's a good, like, it talks about being a resource. I do think it's a good resource, something like a book to have to like refer back to when you're trying to think of activities, because like numbered heads, like I said, I learned what that was in my education classes, but I didn't necessarily, like, it's not necessarily going to come to mind when I'm trying to think of something to do with a class. Since I'm already reading those 3 books, I'm gonna just stick to 2 other books for my TBR, because I am still student teaching. I'm teaching my unit now, so I'm like teaching everything to 6 classes, and that takes a lot of time. So I'm gonna stick to only 2 other books in my TBR for the month. The first one is one that I talked about in last month's TBR and did not get to. It's Breaking In: The Rise of Sonia Sotomayor and the Politics of Justice by Joan Biskupik. Pretty much have the same thing to say about this as last time. I don't know much about Sonia Sotomayor. Other than that she was the first Hispanic female judge, like first Hispanic judge, Supreme Court judge, first Hispanic female Supreme Court judge, which is awesome, but I know like nothing else about her, so I'm looking forward to learning more about her in this, and I'm really excited to read this. I won it from a Goodreads giveaway, and I was so, like, it's one of the happiest what am I saying? It was one of the books I was most excited to win from Goodreads, and I've been pretty excited about some books from Goodreads, but I'm really excited about this one. And then the last book on my TBR is on my Kindle. It's a book that I downloaded from NetGalley called First Position by Melissa Braden. I do not remember anything about this book except for the fact that it is about ballet, and I'm like 95% sure that it's an LGBT book, but I don't exactly know which part of LGBT, because I haven't read it or read much about it. I just know that it has to do with those two things, so I'm excited about that. I've never read a book about ballet, I don't think, ever, so that will be interesting. Most of what I know about ballet is like negative, like the world of professional ballet. Most of what I've been told about it is negative, so I'm interested in seeing what the book does. Like, and I just mean negative and like put a lot of pressure on the dancers and like drive them to bad places because of the pressure, sort of negative. Same sort of pressure that you get in like every competitive sort of thing. But yeah, so I'm interested in branching out and reading something about ballet, especially when it's also an LGBT book. So that is hopefully what I'll read in November. Like I said, I am still teaching my unit, and so I don't have much time, but I also finished teaching my unit this month, and finished my student teaching placement for good this month, which is almost scary because I'm kind of becoming comfortable at my school. So yeah, and finishing student teaching is just going further into the great unknown, and that is terrifying. I still don't have a job for after I graduate. I have filled out applications, but I don't like officially have anything, so student teaching ending is terrifying. That is all, so I will see you guys later. Bye.